people getting access to higher education and having to fill out the FAFSA form. Now, first of all, I want to say that my brothers and sisters and I were able to pursue higher education because of federal support. So I personally know how important this is, and it's why I've been so focused throughout my career on making sure that students can get the federal support they need to make it through higher education. Today, one of the first steps that many kids take to make that dream a reality is filling out the form called FAFSA, which is how they get access to funding for higher education through the federal government. Now, for many years, that application was simply daunting. Many questions, very complex to fill out. You had to import your tax information, and it really became a barrier to many people to getting the federal funds they needed to be able to pursue a higher education. I have always believed that there's no reason for what should be a first step on the path to higher education to become the first stumbling block. And I wasn't the only person who thought that. So I set out to make that form a whole lot easier and quicker to fill out. And I worked with my Republican counterpart on the Senate Education Committee, and together we passed a bipartisan bill to streamline the FAFSA and to rework the financial aid formula so we could get more aid to more students, including, of course, in Washington State. The rollout of that new form and the overhaul that I negotiated last year was rocky, to say the very least. So I've had to continue to work with the department to push them to address the incredibly frustrating problems that students and families were experiencing. And now many of those major kinks have been addressed, and I'm much more optimistic about where things stand this year and going forward. So I will keep working to make sure this works well, but the bottom line for today is that students can now expect a much smoother, easier process. And despite the challenges over the last year, we are now already seeing more students get more aid, which is exactly why I've pushed so hard to reform this process. We know now that nationwide, 10% more students are now on track to receive Pell Grants, not loans, Pell Grants, this year than last year. And in Washington State, over 12% more students are now eligible for Pell Grants than just a year ago, which means more people will be able to get federal grants so they can get a higher education. This is really important for students and families across our state to take advantage of, so that they can get access to the federal money to open those doors to higher education, and it will be available for them immediately. So here's what high school seniors and college students and families across our state should know. The FAFSA form for the upcoming school year is now available. It's available now, and you should get it done as quickly as possible. It'll just take 10 to 15 minutes, to 18 to 20 questions, done with it, and you will know whether you're eligible and how much you can be eligible for financial aid. Even if you think you might not be eligible for financial aid, it is worth taking a few minutes to fill out that form and find out. And I think many students will be very surprised to learn that they actually are eligible now to get additional support, especially with the expanded aid that we work to get. So filling out the FAFSA is the only way to unlock federal grants and assistance and loans to go to college. So you need to fill out this form, whether you're working for a 4-year degree or head to community or technical college, fill the FAFSA out. And now, of course, thanks to these bipartisan reforms I've worked so hard to make happen, the form is shorter and it's quicker. Instead of over 100 questions, it's down to about 18. So it'll only take you about 10 minutes to fill it out. So I just want today to really encourage anyone who's thinking about going to college, community college, technical college, 4-year college, or who's returning to college, take a few minutes, get the FAFSA done. You know, unfortunately, our state, as we all know, has really lagged behind in filling out the FAFSA form, and that means a lot of people are not taking advantage of the federal aid that they qualify for. In fact, last year in 2023, Washington State left $65 million in Pell Grants on the table because no one applied for them. So let's turn that around. And that's the message I want to get across today. Take advantage of every penny of federal support available to you. Fill the FAFSA out, quick, it's easy, and thousands of dollars in federal grants could be on their way to you, 10 minutes away. So I'm working really hard right now to make sure that students and families, people who work in higher education know this form is out there. Let's get it done. Let's make sure everyone gets access to higher education that qualifies. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to questions.
Great. And if you've got a question for Senator Murray, just if you can raise your hand, I'll go ahead and call on you to ask your question. Give it a second here. If folks have any trouble raising their hands too, feel free to just jump in and introduce yourself with your name and outlet. Otherwise, we can wrap here shortly, but we'll just give it a moment.
Philip Bonimus, KHQ. Senator, with the change of administration that's coming up, do you have any anticipation that these changes that you fought so hard for may be reversed in the coming, with the new administration coming in?
I'm not worried about the changes being reversed. Absolutely not. What I am worried about is this rhetoric about eliminating the Department of Education. The Department of Education is staffed with people who help people get their access to federal student loans, to Title I funding for our schools. If there's not the people there, if there's not the department there, that's how these funds dry up. So yes, I'm worried about that rhetoric that they keep throwing out there without the understanding of how they will impact our public education system. But I am not worried that this form is going to change. I know that you can fill it out and get access.
Thank you.
Great. We've got time for just another question or two if folks have any.
Yeah, Dave Furtado over at Keeper here over in the Tri-Cities. Just had a quick question. One thing that I've noticed, even during my time of filling out FAFSA during my school years, was, one of the most common mistakes people make is people leaving things blank and not filling out certain parts of it. So, Senator Murray, how does this change? Or have you seen, after this change, a lot less folks are making those sort of mistakes? Or is that something that's kind of, we're still in the early stages of collecting that data to see how many people made the mistake before the change and then versus now?
Well, we're still collecting the data on that. But Dave, this is what I would say. Go online, fill it out for yourself. You will see how much easier it is. When you only have 18 questions versus over 100, much less likely to skip one or two. And they are easier to track. The complex formulas are something you don't have to deal with. We've changed the system entirely. So it's so much easier to do. I entirely expect that we won't see those kinds of problems.
Great. Any other questions from folks for Senator Murray?
I had one more if she is
Sure.
willing to take one more from me. I know from, again, from my time during it, I've never really, during the filling out FAFSAs, if you will, I never really heard anything about whether or not they're usable for trade schools. And I know a lot of folks, especially over here in Eastern Washington, a lot of folks that I know are focused on doing a lot of the trade stuff. Is the FAFSA applicable to use for trade schools? And if so, do you encourage the use of those things for folks that want to go into trades like electrician, plumbing, things like that?
A lot depends on the institution that you are going to, but yes, it does apply for community colleges and other kinds of higher education. So I'm happy to help you. If you have specific colleges or places that you want to know about, we can work with you on that. But yeah, don't preclude yourself from thinking that where you're going or how long your degree takes or what your financial circumstances are. Get online, apply for it, and see what your opportunities are. Open your doors.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Senator.
You bet.
Wonderful. And we've got time for just one more question if anyone has any. Otherwise, we can wrap and appreciate folks joining today. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks
Thank you all,
for joining.
everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.